Hello, this is Bill Clodsey. Welcome to a Vintage Cube Draft single elimination style online. We open a piece of power. Lucky for us, Mox Pearl. It doesn't look like much. 0, add 1 white to your mana pool. But the key to winning these vintage cubes is just getting something off far earlier than your opponent, and having double mana on turn 1 is kind of insane, just one turn ahead of the game for the rest of the game. If that wasn't here, I'd really probably take Blightsteel Colossus because it has the highest upside. You know, if you get to cheat this thing into play, one attack kills your opponent. And beyond that, there's some other good cards, but hey, it's Vintage Cube, so of course there's good cards. Next, Through the Breach for whoever gets that Blightsteel Colossus. Easy way to cheat it in. You get one attack with whatever creature you cheat in, but fortunately, that's enough to win with that particular creature. Spectral Procession. Taking a Mox doesn't force you into the color of that Mox, but it doesn't hurt either. And Spectral Procession is a lot of 1/1 white flyers for 3 mana, especially if you're doing it on turn 2. Chrome Mox is interesting, Elvish Mystic is interesting. But as this is shaping up here, I'm going to try to go and do some mono-white strat, maybe. Elspeth, Sower of Temptation, Rakdos Return. Nothing crazy here. But Elspeth is a lot more tokens. And maybe isn't the best in the aggressive white deck, but it's a fine top-end card that can help you out. Just keep going along this strategy here. Okay, Thalia. That's one that I like much more than Elspeth or even Spectral Procession in this game. It's a shame that our two best spells, besides Mox Pearl, I guess, are actually spells and not creatures. But still, Thalia is so good in this deck and such a sign that the deck is open that I'll take it here, be happy with it. So the last draft I posted was mono red. This might be mono white, the two most aggressive directions you can go in Cube, and we even have that Mox Pearl to push us along here. It is really funny when you get Thalia. You have to pay 1 for all your Moxes if you're lucky enough to have any, and you feel like you're getting a bum deal, but even that card would be amazing. 1 mana, it wouldn't be any Soul Ring, but 1 mana to ramp you 1 kind of just makes it into a Fyndhorn Elves, but those are still good. Obviously, in the ramp deck, the green ramp deck, you want to play as many of these little elves as you get. Kytheon, perfect. Sun Titan, definitely don't need any more 6-drops in this deck. In fact, if we get a dedicated enough creature deck, we don't need to play Elspeth. And then passing it there just serves the purpose of putting anyone else off of that strategy. Here we have a choice between a decent 2-drop creature, better in like a Jeskai control deck than this deck, but still fine, and Oblivion Ring. Iona's more of a reanimator or ramp card. And Oblivion Ring is a bit worse when we have Thalia, but still fine. And let's do it. Let's take Oblivion Ring, clear the way. Just because you have Dahlia doesn't mean you have to pretend like you start with it in play while drafting. Oftentimes your opponent just spends a little more mana to deal with it that turn. Silverblade Paladin. Cast Out is also good. But let's pick a creature here, especially one that gets this double strike on Kytheon. It's kind of like 6 power and toughness, 2 of it has haste for 3 mana, since most creatures have 2 power. And Cast Out is good, but it's going to be incredibly expensive with Thalia, except the cycling. And Oblivion Ring style effects are just a little cheaper. And we have to start prioritizing these creatures. Okay, Mardu Woe Reaper. Wrath of God, while always a good card, definitely worse when you're the mono-white creature deck. Sort of good against us. And Mardu Woe Reaper is fine. Sometimes your opponent entombs, expecting to have a nice safe creature in their graveyard. And then when this enters, we don't have too many more warriors here, but this guy's a knight. We have a soldier, 2 soldiers. Well, any warriors you put in, including this guy, can exile a creature from a graveyard. It's especially good against maybe the mirror match of red versus white, the 2 aggro decks. Gaining that 1 life could really add up. Reflector Mage, not exactly what we want to see, but I'd never play Linvala. It's too expensive in this deck. And it's possible we go into blue. Not super likely. Disenchant's a nice one to pick up. You never know when you're going to get such easy fixing for it. Like, we could easily be past Tundra and some fetch lands. And we'll be ready when we do. Westvale Abbey. That's going to be good with a bunch of tokens, and it's kind of free to play in a monocolored deck. Sometimes those 1 or 2 of like colorless lands put you off of spectral procession and things, but it's not too bad. Gosh, every now and then some siren interrupts this recording, but muted it there for a bit while we continue on our way. So far so good. Don't really want to main deck Disenchant, but after seeing a couple targets for it, it's a nice one to bring in. Sun Titan is back. No reason to pass a card like this and send the wrong signal. And somehow Soulfire Grandmaster makes it back. And cast out. I guess we're in the right deck. Alright. Most powerful card here. Natural Order. Then we have Gaia's Cradle, which is a nice colorless land, adds 1 mana for each creature we control. Or that's how you have to look at it, at least. And Linvala, Angel of Serenity. Pretty weak first pick, but it turns out that Gaia's Cradle might be strong enough. Could help us fight back from the curse of Thalia here, which makes everything more expensive. Even to the point where we could play Elspeth and go nuts. Or activate Westvale pretty cheaply. The life's not so important, but 5 mana is a lot, so Gaia's Cradle could help out with that. Alright. Chalice. Looking for things to spend a lot of mana on. Not exactly the thing we want, though. Where Monastery Mentor looks like it can get a lot of value in this deck. We've got a bunch of random spells, even some spells that make creatures. And Mox Pearl is a spell, non-creature spell to help out the Mentor. Not to mention Gaia's Cradle getting pretty good with extra tokens. Mana Crypt. Oh no. And by oh no, I mean yes, this thing is great. To get this late, 3rd pick in pack 2. It might look like a liability. I don't really love Batterskull here, but just getting something out much earlier than you'd expect. It's like a 0 mana Soul Ring. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Well, that's just about perfect. Now that we have all these tokens, we need Honor of the Pure. All our creatures are white. Lingering Souls is kind of neat too, but without access to black, Spectral procession is usually just better. Unexpectedly absent, flooded Strand. I will always play these fetch lands in white in an aggressive low curve white deck like this, because in the late game you kind of don't want to draw any more white, and randomly it might help us play Reflector Mage or even, gosh, Opposition or something like that at this point. Absent is good, Banisher Priest is good, but just go for the flooded Strand here. Kind of looking at 5 lands, so 12 playables. Sun Titan, getting a fetch makes Sun Titan a bit better too. And based on what we saw in first pack, there's a high chance that we wheel one of those white cards that we passed. But Flooded Strand, that would be a lot harder to wheel. Even non-white decks would be interested in Flooded Strand. Okay, so taking a little longer to get past our next pack, but no one's disconnected or anything, just checking who's in here. This is single elimination, so everyone at the table, you know, all the cards stay at the table when we play each other. And we haven't really cut anything yet, but white is wide open. We just hope the number of cards in the cube is higher than the number of cards opened in, I forget exactly how many cards there are and you know how many cards are opened, but it's not guaranteed that every card is opened every draft. But it is guaranteed that only one of each is opened. Gideon, nice one here. Declaration in Stone is playable, Scrubland is fine, but take a Gideon. I guess he never changes his armor. It's like the exact same picture here. That's alright though. Armor's expensive. You can't just change it every few years. Alright, Mirren Crusader versus Elspeth. That one gets tough. Mirren Crusader just wins some matchups. Elspeth is kind of too good to pass though. When we're going in a token direction. We do have another Elspeth already. Gosh, and the fact that Mirren Crusader is a creature helps us out too. I'm going to take the Crusader. Judgment's good. Yeah, because we already have one Elspeth and we have a Thalia. And they're pretty close on power level. Double Strike beats any black-green deck and holds equipment quite well. With Honor of the Pure, hitting for 3 or, you know, make a Gideon emblem hit for 4 double strike. That gets pretty good. Linvala is more of a sideboard card. Maze of Ith would be annoying to play against, but we'll take Linvala here. It's possible to play this. It comes in handy more often than you'd think. It's also quite expensive for a 3/4. Mana Tithe. Yeah, Monastery Mentor and Dahlia are at odds in a deck like this. We'll just hope the power's there. We'll hope we draw Guy's Cradle. Get some more early drops too. That's what we need. Revell Arc. The good thing about Revell Arc is it gets back most of the creatures we'd ever want. Anything that dies early. Also expensive. The funny thing about this card is the evoke cost is more than the cost of the creature. So they figure the effect is worth more than a 5/3 flyer, or 4/3 flyer rather, for 5. Two little guys. Yeah, getting 2 guys back gets even better when you have a couple Anthem effects. Honor of the Pure, Gideon. We're looking to get more of those in the next pack if possible. More 1-drops too would be nice. And I'm confident we will get them based on these colors being so open. The Oblivion Ring Angel. So yeah, any white card like this we see we'll expect to come back to us. Banisher Priest is back, and I'll take it. We want to prioritize those creatures. We don't have a huge count right now, and I guess we have enough 3-drop creatures, but yeah, that slot, I mean, you can have too much of a good thing, but you can't have too many Moxes. So we can take Mox Ruby here and be ecstatic. Wow. Here's another warrior, one of the few warriors you can get to help out Mardu Woe Reaper do his thing. But of course that's gonna wheel, so Mox Ruby, here we go. If we get a white-red fetch, or a white-red duel, we can fetch it with Flooded Strand, maybe splash something like a Johnny, who's also powerful in a deck like this, but yeah, 2 pieces of power once again. Not bad. And Umezawa's Jite. That's got to be the pick here. When we have a couple ways of getting double strike and just some first strike nonsense, card's way too good. Of course, Caracas or Blade Splicer will wheel, so don't worry about that. At this point, I'm going to go through and make a few little cuts around the edges of cards I don't expect to play. Main, or not even cards that I don't expect to play, but cards that won't necessarily make the main deck. Elspeth is a little better than Sun Titan, unless you have some really good reason to play Sun Titan, like something that getting it back every turn is like killing one of their lands, or better than that. Angel of Sanctions is good enough for 5 mana. Ooh, here we go, Stoneforge Mystic. I actually saw this played against me, so they did Stoneforge, and they had Mana Crypt. So they got Umezawa's Jite, and on turn 2, they went Mana Crypt Jite after doing Stoneforge. It was nuts. We could do that on turn 1 if we get 2 Mox. If we get this hand, this highlighted hand. Anyway, what next? Sword of War and Peace. Getting that second piece of equipment makes Stoneforge that much better, and this one's good. Protection from white is useless in this draft, but it prevents our opponent from getting protection from white, so I'm happy with that. Student of Warfare, one of the top 1-drops you can get, so happy to pick that up. And it also has first strike, so this Jite gets better with it. Okay, so 2 things to fetch there. The real exciting part of this deck is just the 0 mana ramp. See how much nonsense we can get up to on the first turn. Things like Monastery Mentor get better because they're double colorless. It's going to be much harder to cast a 3-drop like Silverblade Paladin on turn 1 when our fixing sources are like Mana Crypt, Mox Ruby. So right now we have 4 colorless mana sources. Not ideal. Flicker Wisp, Boros Signet, and Emrakul, which we can ramp to with Gaia's Cradle, but let's take Flicker Wisp. It's also one I wouldn't be too sad to cut. We'll see how this works out. Kind of fun to play Flicker Wisp with a powerful minus ability on a Planeswalker. We don't really have one of those, but doing something like -3 Elspeth and then Flicker Wisp gets it back at full loyalty. Little cute things like that. A lot of upside to this ability. Resto. Sure. Instantly. This was printed in the set with Soul Bond, so you can instantly repair any kind of Soul Bond. So that'll be a good one here. So 6, we've got 22 main deck here. Looking for a couple more. I play 16 lands total. So at this point we're playing 10 planes. And then this nonsense. Soldier of the Pantheon, perfect. Just mass 1-drops. As many of those as we can get. So we're looking for one more. One more card better than anything in our sideboard. Cast Out, the cycling cost never gets more expensive, so we can always just cycle that if we don't need it. Or if we draw too few lands. So how's our removal looking? We've got Oblivion Ring, Council's Judgment. To some extent, Elspeth is removal. Declaration in Stone. Get rid of those pack rats. Mana Tithe. Better on the play, but I guess it's always worth surprising someone with that effect. Procession isn't too weak. I mean, you don't need the 3 white mana. In fact, if you have something like Mana Crypt, that still ramps toward it just fine. We could do turn 1 Spectral if we have Pearl, Crypt, and Plains. Seeker's back, that's perfect. That finishes out the deck just fine. Another little dude. In fact, we have the whole sequence here. We've got Monastery Mentor, Seeker of the Way, and Soulfire Grandmaster, all these prowess guys from Khan's block. All the constructed playable ones. They do a good job of featuring the constructed powerhouses in these cubes. Blade Splicer. Ooh, that's gonna oust something. Parallax Wave too. Maybe better than Cast Out. Or Elspeth even, if our deck is that aggressive. Or do we still get to play Elspeth? Let's see. This is 30 minus 6, that's 23. Yeah, we still play Elspeth. Oh, I thought this was Mother of Runes for a second, and I said, why didn't we pick that the first time around? No, it's just an Enlightened Tutor. And you might play that in a deck like this, but it's not necessary. Portal. Not one I've tried out, but I've seen it be pretty good. Just draw an extra turn. Draw an extra turn. Yeah, draw an extra card every turn. Braids. We could race something like Braids, but I don't want to deal with it. And the wall is a little slow. It doesn't block our Murin Crusader. Okay, so let's take a clean look at this deck. And not considering any of these sideboard options. And if we're gonna splash, it would probably be red. Blue is also not too bad, but I don't think we splash either. We have too many playables, and one land is not enough without better fixing. Coercive Portal too slow. Banisher Priest is fine. These angels are a little too slow. Flicker Wisp. We already have 2 fine angels. This is 25. Looks like we need 1 cut. I could see cutting Declaration in Stone, although it's a fine card. And I could see cutting Elspeth. Maybe Seeker, but we've got to keep this core of early creatures. Maybe Mana Tithe. Yeah, the deck actually looks good without Elspeth. It looks good without Declaration too. Let's keep Elspeth in there. Win the late game. And we have the ramp for it. There's our 10 planes and our pieces of fixing here. So, this is Vintage Cube, mono white, and a powerful version of it, literally. We've got Mox Pearl, Mox Ruby, and Mana Crypt to ramp out all of our threats. So let's try it out in some matches.